it's a joy for us to be on the school campus, right?
Yeah.
We love what we're doing. One, we're called, that's first and foremost, but we actually love what we're doing. So when we wake up, we're thinking about all the kids that are going to get to hear the gospel that day. And so one girl looks up to Natalie and she said, asked Natalie, do you love what you do? And Natalie's like, you bet I do. I mean, this is my favorite thing to do. And so, man, the joy that we get to have and the privilege of being on campus with the students is, man, I wouldn't give that up for anything.
That's amazing.
Working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Cherico and Brad Skelling.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Steve, and this is my frenemy, Brad.
Hey, everybody. I'm just sad because as of this recording, it's almost 1 o'clock and my Jimmy John sandwich is 2 hours late. So.
Oh, that's why those of us who know sandwiches go to Jersey Mike's.
Hangry. I know, right?
Jersey Mike's, baby.
Oh, man.
Why did you
because I ordered with Janice, not with you. When I'm with you, I order Jersey Mike's. When I'm with Janice, I order.
And I can't blame you. Janice knows how to get a sandwich done. Just saying.
Evidently, the guy got in an accident, so I
Are
can't
you
be mad.
serious right now? You are terrible.
My sandwich is probably in a tow yard somewhere.
I can't believe we're doing this on the podcast right now.
Hey, I hit the record button, and I decided I was hungry. I'm thinking about food, okay? Leave me alone.
Oh, my word.
I woke up in Florida. I'm sitting here in Nashville.
Oh, gosh, that's great.
I've had crackers so far today.
All right,
Crackers.
so for those of us who watch it on YouTube, one of the questions I have is every week you show up with the same shirt. Are you now Steve Jobs? Do you just have like 7 of those shirts and you just put on that shirt?
Yes.
Okay.
And particularly the darker ones when I'm on video, either the red one or the blue one. So that's usually what you're going to get from me when we record on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And yes, in the summertime, I put on a different First Priority polo every day.
All right.
I do not. It's another decision you don't have to make.
Yeah.
Why
Listen,
why burden yourself?
There are a lot of people that would agree with you that wear blue jeans and a black T-shirt every single day.
I mean, if we're chasing rabbits today, so I'll chase the rabbit. Like I just pulled the next one off the pile, like rotate through just to make sure.
Great.
Make sure. And if there's one that I don't like, it goes in the Goodwill pile. It's like, if I'm not going to wear it today, okay, it's just the next one in line.
Gosh, we are learning so much right now.
Right?
We are learning a lot.
If you all want to call my counselor, it's 615.
Exactly. So speaking of counselors, what are we talking about today?
What are you saying about Shane and Natalie?
Exactly. That's my point. Speaking of people who are great listeners.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And full of wisdom.
Yeah. It's their breath of fresh air. When we recorded this at the spring meeting, we were just done with the spring meeting. We had been in meetings from noon, hung out with each other all night, back the next morning, and they came back up to the office, and we sat here for probably 2 hours chatting before we jumped on. And then we sat here and talked again and just talking Jesus and First Priority. And
it's good.
It just oozes out of them. So be ready for a good conversation.
I was going to say, so let's not steal any more thunder. Let's jump in and we'll close this thing out.
Sounds good. Well, as Steve said, I'm here with Shane and Natalie. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I think we probably talked about you before, but have we had you on the show before?
I think we might have done one early, not together, never together.
No, we have never.
No?
I
I
don't
think
think we
we've
have.
done them separate.
I think they were afraid.
Very afraid.
so.
Yes,
Well, people
but
have
let's
heard
go
your
to the same
voices.
room.
Fall conference. So you have
There we
been
go.
on at the fall
Yes.
conference. Your Devo is on there from the fall conference. So
Yes.
our people will be familiar with you.
That might be what it is, yeah.
Yeah. Would you take a moment, introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, where you are, family?
Yeah, so
Things
I'm
of that
Shane
nature.
Kenney, and I'm the director of First Priority in the Permian Basin in Texas. And this is my wife, Natalie. And we have 2 girls, Tori, who is 27, living in Texas, and Tristan, who is 26 and living in Alaska. Yep, living in Alaska.
Uh-huh.
So Natalie and I have been married 30 years this year in September. And man, it's just fun doing ministry together.
It's awesome.
So true. We've been out in West Texas now for 10 years.
It's crazy.
Just
It is.
loving
Seems like
the
yesterday.
area God has. Oh, it does. I mean, it really does. Like when we get together like this, I feel like it really has it been 10 years that we've been out there.
Yeah.
But God has just, given us such a heart for that community that He's called us to. And so we're just excited for what the next 10 look like.
Right.
Yes.
It wasn't that long ago that Roberts called you and that first party bus pulled into the parking lot.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I know.
okay, God, here we go.
Yeah.
And even after the first year, we didn't know that we were going to last. I mean, after a year, we didn't know what the hell, but we were willing to keep pushing until God moved us, and He hasn't.
That's right.
And actually, when he first moved us out there, we thought, okay, this is 40 years in the desert. I mean, we were doing this.
We did.
And so we're 10 years into that. So,
Yes.
And has not been a desert experience. You've seen a lot of fruits of your labor.
yeah.
We have. And something that was shared earlier, just that we know the remnants there.
Yeah.
And if you just were to pull back and kind of Google Earth it, there's definitely his remnant there in the Permian Basin. We're just seeing students' lives change. We're watching the kingdom grow as a whole. We're just watching youth groups increase. And we know it's only just because we believe the gospel is changing our community through the hearts of students. So it has been just an amazing journey that there's so much more work to do, though. I think we've just scraped the surface. And so, and I wouldn't have said that years ago. So I just think that consistency and faithfulness is huge. And God's allowing us to see some of the fruit of our labor, which
It's cool.
you don't always get in ministry. And it's because I think it's just enough to where it's like, I have so much more for you. And so we're excited to see what else that he's going to do in and through us in the city he's called us to. So it's been pretty
We feel like
amazing.
after 10 years, I mean, we feel like we're getting in a groove and, not that groove of complacency, but man, God is rocking. I mean, he's
awesome.
He's doing great things, and
He's
we're seeing with volunteers and churches, the partnerships with them.
Yep.
We just feel like, man, this is, when you pray that prayer of enlarge my territory, and he starts doing it, and don't be surprised when you're like, when you're having to figure out, okay, so what do we do next?
That's right. Well, you walked into town 10 years ago. You weren't the first director that they hired, right? You were following some people, but
Correct.
What did ministry look like when you started, and where? Give us a snapshot of where you're at right now.
So when we got there, they had, there was another director that was there, and stepped aside, and so they were kind of at the point of they had to decide they were ready to just let the ministry go, because they didn't really know what Is this something that's going to bear fruit? Is this something that we're getting, more bang for our buck? For what we're investing in? Are we getting the product that we're looking for? And I think they were at the point where they were ready to call it quits and say, there's other things that we can invest our money into. And so we got the call and said, hey, what would you think about moving out to Odessa, Texas? And of course, we said absolutely not,
because you were living in Florida, in paradise.
We were living in Florida. We were, my mother and father-in-law had moved down a few years prior to that, and wanted to spend the second half of their life retired in Florida with us, and we felt like we'd be abandoning that, and again, we didn't even know Odessa, Texas existed, or Midland, Texas. We didn't know anything about oil and gas. We still don't know that much, but
No, we don't.
we know it smells, but we didn't really it didn't make any sense in our minds to move there. We'd established a lot of ministry connections over.
Yeah, we had been in our city
a long
for
time.
20 years in Citrus County in Florida, and
Our family
show
was
up.
there. I had a roofing company that was there, and so we were felt like we were where we were supposed to be, involved in the local church, doing ministry.
coaching in the schools. Still doing first priority in Florida. We were doing it there.
Started doing first priority there, and then we get the call about going out to Texas, and we got several calls, and again, profusely no, and then I don't know, I can't even remember how we got talked into going out to Texas for 48 hours. Hey, get on a flight, let's come there. And we did, and we met some great people, but the more we talked about what first priority should look like, and we sat on the steps of Odessa High School and just wept. And it was on the day we were flying back, and it was like, God, I mean, we did not see that coming. God broke our heart for that city. And so anyway, when we got there, they were on two schools, one middle school, one high school. And so we just went there knowing that, man, God called us here for a reason, and we're not going to waste any time. Let's do this. And so we quickly got on every school in Odessa, and then God started opening up doors for other cities around. And so then we were quickly into Midland and on every city there. And then it's just a ripple effect. The cities that were outside of that now, all of a sudden we're like, we've got to have you here. And so where we're at now is we're in 8 cities. We're getting ready to start in 9 cities. We just got the approval for another city. So, and that'll be 39 schools in 8 cities. So in 10 years.
In 10 years, we went from 2 schools to currently 37. I know
37.
we'll be 39 since we
Uh-huh.
start.
Yep.
And I mean, I think it all just attribute to just networking.
Yep.
How important it is to, when you get into a city, to just build those relationships within the local churches. And Shane's a great networker. And that's so when people move to the outskirt cities,
Yeah.
they already had that relationship with Shane and they're like, hey, I want this here. They've seen the results. And so
Yep.
I feel like that's kind of how we've grown. And then when they even move somewhere else in Texas, it's like, hey, Shane, do we have it here?
Yep.
And so every relationship God has used from the moment we stepped foot there 10 years ago, he's using it in every city. And so,
and that's not just ministry, but this is
right.
principles. Like when we build a relationship with principals,
Yes.
we don't start a school until I shake a principal's hand and they know what we're for and that we're for them.
Yep.
And here's what happens is the principals, for some reason, they rotate quite a bit.
Okay.
More often than what we'd like. But when they move to another school, we already have an in there because they know us. They have that relationship.
Know who you are.
And then when they move to a different city, they, you know, it paves that way. But the relationship part of first priority, I think, is why we're successful, because we can't do this alone. Again, we're two people.
That's right.
And so as God has opened up doors in more schools and more cities, he's opened up the doors for us to bring on more staff.
Yep.
And so that's where we're sitting at now is, you know, we've had to bring on staff to accommodate.
Right. Well, because when you talk about 37 schools, you're not talking about 37 clubs.
No, I'm talking about 37 different buildings that host clubs.
How many clubs?
72 clubs.
72 clubs, because a lot of your clubs are over lunch, and there are 3 lunch periods. So you count those as 3 clubs because you have 3 sets of volunteers.
Yeah. And that's a 3-hour day. I mean, you have 3 different lunches, each is 50 minutes apiece. And so our volunteers know what they're getting into, and they just, you know, and they love it. And here's the thing is that the relationship building and why they, why our volunteers are so successful with us is because, you know, we pour into them outside of the clubs.
Yeah.
And Natalie is great at that. You know, she'll talk for 45 minutes after the club's over in a parking lot talking about, you know, how their parents are, or how this happened, or how, and so building those relationships, and people want to, we've built up that trust where people want to work with you. They want to work alongside you because this is not just about a club, it's about relationships.
And you're really consistent with them. Like we were talking before the recording about, you send a weekly email.
Yes.
Just leading. You're out in front of them, not just saying, "Hey, volunteer, here you go.
Good luck."
Good luck. You're consistent with them. We're at the end of the school year, so you're doing an appreciation banquet, giving back some amazing volunteers, some swag, giving them some gifts for the year. That obviously pales in comparison to what they've given to you as far as a volunteer goes.
Absolutely.
But
I mean, I think that with first priority structure, it's our volunteers, and keeping volunteers is a huge deal for us.
Yeah.
It's just loving people well, though. I think that, and in doing that, there's probably nothing they wouldn't do for the Lord. Yeah. And so I that's kind of how we've done it. We have maintained our volunteers and just continue to grow them. Just because I think that we're so conscious of loving well, and just, you know, there's no burnout. I mean, sure, after 30 weeks, we're tired and we're kind of like, oh, yay, last week we hugged the kids, but we're good. But yeah, that is so important. This is such a relational ministry.
Yeah.
And so, but we just mirror that of what Jesus did. I mean, he walked with people, he sat with people, and just invested in them. And so we just hope that in doing that, we have an opportunity to equip students to reach people. Yeah. So, but it takes a lot of adults. I know we are a student-led, clubs, but it does take a lot of adults, and just in organizing, encouraging, and empowering students to do this. So, it's kind of like we're all in this because we want to see good for these kids. And so in turn, we have just seen amazing results this year. Yeah. We've seen students that are just showing up to lead in ways that only the Lord could do. And how many decisions have we had this school year? I know this was
we just finished our final club, and so we ended the year with 2,325.
Wow.
2325, that's how many students.
That's amazing.
These are people that checked a top box. And again, when you talk about numbers like that, it's on one hand, you're thinking, man, people are going to say that's ridiculous. Right. Like, how do you justify that many numbers? How can were those real? And so here's the thing is that from the curriculum and everything that's written, the response time is very direct, very clear. And so this is what happens with those numbers is this is who checked the top box, right? That says, today I'm giving my life to Jesus. and our club mentors and student leaders are doing a very good job through the prayer and the follow-up to say, hey, so this is telling me that today you're saying, I haven't done this before, man. Jesus, I'm making him my guy today. And they're saying, that's absolutely what I'm saying. And then we have some students that just say, like the 17-year-old girl, she looks up and she says, okay, so this is incredible. Why am I 17 years old and this is the first time somebody's telling me that there's somebody that died for my sins?
Right.
And it's every day we encounter people that haven't heard the good news.
Wow.
And then we're surprised. So, with this many decisions, these are how many conversations that have been taking place, like saying, hey, so tell me what this means to you.
Yep.
And guess what? If they say, nah, man, I did that. I mean, I'm already good. And then guess what? That doesn't count towards our numbers.
Yeah.
We say, okay, well, let's fix that on the box so that when we do our stuff. But the follow-up has been great this year because we between our staff or people that are there, we work with our student leaders, and when we pick up the response cards and we let the students know, hey, if you check the top box, hey, guess what? We're going to want to have a conversation with you. We want to find out what does this mean to you. We're proud of you. We're going to congratulate you. And we have student leaders, and we have pictures of student leaders that are going to sit with them and actually praying with them and saying, hey, if you don't have a church to go to, man, come to my church on Wednesday. And so that filters into the local church, and this is why these volunteers is so important to them. And then at this other school, Natalie's walking by, and here's the thing: it's a joy for us to be on the school campus, right? We love what we're doing. We're called, that's first and foremost, but we actually love what we're doing. So when we wake up, we're thinking about all the kids that are going to get to hear the gospel that day. And so one girl looks up to Natalie, and Natalie goes by and just connecting with her, and then walks on, and then so she calls her back, and she asked Natalie, do you love what you do? And Natalie's like, you bet I do. I mean, this is my favorite thing to do. And then Natalie had this second guess, like, wait a second, did my face not look like I love what I do? She said, no, it's the exact opposite. I mean, you look like you love what you do. And so, man, the joy that we get to have and the privilege of being on campus with the students is, man, I wouldn't give that up for anything.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And the churches are seeing the product of this. The youth pastors that are showing up and pouring into students, when their students are coming back to their churches and bringing their friends, I mean, it makes it worth it. How can you not be a part of that? And then one girl, I mean, she's a freshman in school at Permian High School, and she was a phenomenal leader. Like, you get excited knowing that she's a freshman because it's like, okay, we got you 2 years senior. And she's excited. Well, she transfers schools, and these are two gigantic schools in Texas. And she switches over to the other school and jumps right in and led the rest of the school year.
Really?
She's an incredible leader. And it didn't matter what school she was in or what her friend group was, because that changed quick. And man, she's just a rock star.
I love it. I love it.
I think you can tell we love sharing the stories. Oh my goodness.
No, there's stories for days.
I look at Shane, his face just lights up. It's just like, oh, you want to hear a story? It's like for days.
I don't think any of our listeners are done driving yet, so you can keep going if you want.
Oh, no, there's stories.
But I think one of the other stories is that we just got a couple days ago. You wonder how effective it is when we post on social media. I know that we all do, kind of, because that's our reach. We're not just putting stuff out there just to put it out there. We want to use it to reach it and maybe hit that next level. And I got a message from a parent, I think it was 2 days ago. It might have been 3, but and she made the comment about the ministry. And at first you're thinking, got a secret message. And she said, just something to the effect of what you're doing is effective. She's like, I know that you guys talked about being the light of the world, because that was our last week, and really pushing for them to go out to the world and share the good news. And she said, I'm watching it happen within my own daughter. She's like, we're driving down the road, and she's like, Mom, stop, rolls down the window and asks a group of kids, I think there might have been 5, if they would go to youth group with her. And she said, and 2 of them came.
Really?
And she said, I'm watching my daughter live this out. And so her next thing is because she didn't know the Bible growing up. This is a parent messaging us about this. And she said, what I loved is that you didn't just share John 3:16 with the kids, which we all know whether we ever owned a Bible. She said, but you pushed it to John 3:17 and had her sharing that, which truly showed love. That you weren't out to condemn the kids that they go to school with, but that they have a relationship through him. So I was like, when I get messages from parents, it's impacting their home. We can only hope to do that at a local level. And so I told Shane, I was like, that made all of those weeks and all the things that you did, the struggle at that school, so worth it. I mean, it's really worth it anyway. I know but that the Lord will let us see that. And so that was, just a precious story from a parent who's seeing it in her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, it's a privilege to reach this generation.
Yeah.
This is, I see hope in this generation.
Yeah.
I see future in this generation. So I might not know all the words that they say and what they all mean, but man,
And you're not going to look all of them up.
No, I'm not going to look them up. I am not
Afraid to.
Google searching.
Exactly.
But what I love about it is that there's hope there.
Yeah.
And that just comes through the power of the gospel. And so it is just truly transforming lives, and that we just get to play a small role in that.
I love it.
It's just huge to us.
Yes.
It's just huge.
Mm-hmm.
So we're so excited.
I feel like we're in our first year post-COVID. Like we're in
Yes,
every school.
I agree.
I think so.
And I'm telling you, even the effects of, I know a lot of people struggled through as far as ministry-wise and being an on-campus ministry and not being out on campus, and struggling through that. And and we even questioned whether or not God was finished with us in Texas, because we're like, okay, we know where we're supposed to be and we can't. So what, God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I don't want to go be a discipleship pastor or something else. I want to do first priority.
Yep.
And sure enough, there are stories that are coming out of the COVID era that are still just a huge blessing. You know, we have one guy, he's on full-time staff at a church, and he helps us with a couple different schools. Well, he's very relational. He is so good with the kids. And he's at this middle school, and there's a little 6th grade girl, and he just makes it fun for everybody. But anyway, the 6th grade girl had started coming.
Okay.
But the churches weren't opened up yet, and so it was really, the families were worried about, being out in public and all that stuff.
Sure.
So the 6th grade girl, she remembered the church, because when our adults are there, we do a church shout out once a month. It's like, okay, so what church are you with?
Yep.
Hey, if you don't have a church to go to, man, this guy goes here, this guy goes here, this guy goes here. And so we make sure that they know that churches are available and would love for you to be there, join their youth group.
Sure.
Well, so this girl, it was over the COVID part, her and her family would watch this guy's online service every single week on Sunday.
Yes.
And didn't really know until when COVID was over, her and her family started showing up to church. And it was all because it started with this little 6th grade girl that knew Randy from Bowie Middle School. And and so she would watch Mr. Randy and whoever was preaching that Sunday would watch them online. The family started watching it with their daughter.
Okay.
And so here's what happened, and this is post-COVID. They started attending his church faithfully on Sundays, and now they work in the children's ministry at their church.
Nice.
And it was all because Randy was so relational with these kids. And the 6th grade girl went home and told her family. So when we talk about 2,300 decisions, it's not just students. We're talking families. We're talking the teachers that are in the room.
Yeah.
I've got a dozen teachers at Bowie Middle School that help and rotate, and it's affecting them. I've had a couple of teachers, and I haven't said this out loud yet, but we had a couple of teachers that stuck around after club and really just kind of had a release of just grief and things that they were going through and missing out on the church connection and being a part of it. And so guess what? They got invites to go to church.
They're like, can we come sit with you where you're at?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my goodness, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, yes, it's more than just with the students, but I will tell you, it's just the strategy behind First Priority that is so effective. It's so intentional with everything that it does that it just works. It works. And so we've loved every facet of it. And I mean, and I know we're sharing a lot of those mountaintop moments. And we know ministry is lonely. We know that can happen, especially when you're doing campus ministry. Because you don't go home to a staff or go to a building with staff and everyone's hyping each other up. So that's what I think the First Priority family is so good at. Is just how we as a community network with each other, share wins and losses, and how are we going to get through this. So that we're not just those lone rangers out there by ourselves. We've never felt that way. In the 10 years that we've been in Texas, even though we don't have any family there, we have never felt like we were out there alone.
Good.
And so that's so important for us too, with the rest of the First Priority community, is that we don't want people to ever to feel like they are out there alone.
Yeah, and it's easy to do.
It is.
Yeah,
it absolutely
very
is.
Easy.
And I know that Shane and I, because we do ministry together, probably does make a little bit of that easier. And I know not every spouse gets to do that. But no, we don't. I think the First Priority family has been just so effective in that. There's always room for improvement with all of us in our ministries, but I think that's one that I would say we just reach out. And that the community that we have within this First Priority America and just our network
Yep.
has made it to where we can stay out in a city where we don't have family
Yeah.
and continue to do ministry because we get to share the wins and losses with one another who are doing the same thing with us, just in different states.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's huge too. It's just, we could
We want to see other people. We want to see other people succeed. I mean,
Well,
we do.
we
Yeah.
know it works, and so if there's a way that that we can help and encourage somebody else to, just keep pushing.
So usually I ask people who are come on the podcast, what's one bit of advice that I could give, to a newbie coming on? What I'm hearing you say is to send you an email so you can connect and with your phone
Absolutely.
number and you guys can get on the phone and talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do that.
What's your email address?
Shane at firstpriority.org. Firstprioritypb. Shane at fpofamerica.com.
There you go.
Do that one.
Yo, he'll pick that up.
No, it's all right.
Shane
at
fpofamerica.com.
fpofamerica.com. Yep. Yep. I
No,
knew you
we
had
love
that
that. We
email
love
address.
that
I didn't know
stuff.
if you had a Permian Basin address
He
too.
does.
But
I do have a separate one
Okay,
that I just
okay.
use for that stuff.
That's all right. Okay.
They can have any one of them, right?
So send Shane your telephone number. He'll give you a call.
Absolutely.
And you guys can connect and talk through more first priority stuff.
And anyone's
Yes.
also welcome to come out. We've had quite a few districts come out and just watch us do clubs
Yeah, come to a
and
club.
just show them what practical ways of what club looks like. Because we have clubs in the morning, we have clubs during lunch, and we do have one after.
Okay.
We have them in charter schools, and we're in public schools.
Love it.
So it gives people that sometimes it's just get in there and see what it looks
That's
like.
right. Come
And,
experience it.
Yep.
We love doing that as well. We love going and visiting other districts just to see how it works, and you just glean stuff.
That's
off
right.
Of that. And
That's right.
And sometimes they'll come out and be like, "Oh, no, that's too much." Just kidding. No, because the only
No, they
Shane
probably
and I-
say, "Oh, you guys are so extra,"
we are.
and we are extra.
We are, but and we all are in different seasons in our lives. I mean,
Yeah.
we shared about our daughters, so
Yeah.
we are on that empty nest type. So we get to show up at stuff that
That's
other
right.
people are putting their kids to bed. So we realize there are different places that you can pour in. But Shane and I, we outside of First Priority, we go to all the sporting events and different things like that.
That's awesome.
Because for us, we want these students to know that people still show up.
Yep. That's
And
right. Well, that was your mantra at Fall Conference.
It's huge.
To be seen,
Well,
to
we're-
show up,
yeah.
to be there, look eyeball
And
to
we have a
eyeball.
lot of students that don't have parents that are at events.
Yeah,
because
and,
I mean, and it's not.
And this
any
isn't
fault of
throwing
them.
them under the bus. I mean, there's
Absolutely
just
not.
life happens.
it is.
But there was one guy who there's a guy who we have really been pouring into for this past year, and he's one of our first priority leaders. And it's crazy the way God is working through him, because he has dyslexia and has trouble reading, but he's been getting up and leading every week with the curriculum, so
We
he's doing
practice
great.
right before he leaves.
But he wants to reach his whole football team, and so
cool.
he's out on the field and he's praying with this one guy who's I think he's new to the school, and football players together. And anyway, so we showed up to all the games that we could. Well, this guy is walking by and he's looking up in the stands, and so Natalie asked him. She says, "Do you have parents here? Or who are you looking for?" And he says, "No, I was just looking for you." And because he's seen her in the stands and knows that there's people for him,
Yep.
it matters. I
Wow.
mean, so if it's a girls weightlifting meet or a,
Oh yes, we have learned
track
a
meet,
lot of different ones.
There's a lot of more sports
track,
out there.
Yeah,
We
for
do.
those who wonder, track goes for a long time.
Yep.
And it could go till after 9:00 at night. And so we go there, and the coaches, we're meeting all the coaches. So I mean, it's like we're infiltrating ourselves into the school as well.
Sure.
And we do live in a town where they just bleed football.
Oh yeah.
But what we found is that people only pour in during football.
Yep.
And so when they saw Shane and I show up, they were just kind of like, we just finally stopped trying to figure out which one is your kids,
Yeah.
and they're like, they're all are. And I said, yeah. And one of the coaches shared, he said, my life would have been so much different had someone showed up.
Yeah.
And I knew, and so I knew then that I'm going to show up for him as well.
Yeah.
Because I know that people pour in during that season. And so I told him, I was like, I know the late hours you're putting in these track meets and different things like that, or powerlifting or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
I said, I just want you to know that we show up for you as well. And we see you.
Yeah.
And so
Love it.
I think it has really changed the community, but we have that availability. So it's kind of like, now that I could never do that. No, but whatever you can do, let's just do
Correct.
it well.
Yep.
And do it to the glory of God, and He will, man, you'll see the fruit of it.
Yeah,
Love
and it's
it.
been ministry to these coaches
love
too, because
Yeah.
the coaches showed up to watch this football player
Yeah.
lead this club,
Yeah,
and they're
so
like,
yes.
Oh, really?
Oh my
Very
goodness,
cool.
So
I
he
can't believe
texts
this
his
is
coach.
happening.
He's like, I'm leading, which he leads every week. And one of the times they came, and they just stood back, and they're just like, Miss, how do you get all these kids to come? And I was like, because kids know what love looks like.
Yeah.
Yep.
It crosses all boundaries, language, whatever it is. And that we can all speak.
Yep.
And they were just shocked because it's a tougher school to reach, not tough for the Lord, but and he's like, you get all these kids to pack in this room. It's not an appealing room. Yeah. It's not anything. And,
but the love you're showing is.
Yes. Yes. And that's what, so they were like, oh my goodness. And they didn't even realize that this young boy would even talk out loud. Yeah. He plays football, but he doesn't have to talk. And they're like, we had no idea.
Huh.
So
that's awesome.
It's been a great journey, and we are so thankful for this ministry.
And God is equipping us for what we need at those schools.
Yeah.
One of the parts that I felt like that we were missing out on was we live in the school is 86% Hispanic, and some are Spanish speaking only, and we were missing that part. And God brought us somebody that goes to the clubs and has a group and interprets the curriculum and interprets it to them. Sure. And so they're seeing decisions with that group because now they're hearing somebody speaking their language to them. Yeah. And it's about the hope of Jesus, and they've never heard it like that from somebody. So anyway, God is equipping us with what we need as we move forward. And
that's something that we've been praying for 10 years.
Sure.
And we wanted that. We knew that was the component that we were missing if we were really going to look like our culture, the city's calls to and stuff. And so now what we're doing with some of the guys is we're translating them into Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, now we have Spanish Bibles available everywhere. And I thought just nothing more precious than to hear the gospel in your heart language.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what we're having students do now at one of our high schools is that they'll just dual share. So he'll do, one of the students will read a paragraph, the other one will read that paragraph in Spanish. And
wow,
it's been so precious because there's just reaching all the cultures that we can and doing it right. Like that was kind of a thing for us. And in that we have gotten more churches involved. More Spanish churches have gotten more involved.
Oh yeah.
But that's just been this year. Wow. So we know that's just going to get even bigger in that culture. Yeah. So we're excited about that because I still do not know much Spanish, but I can love on kids.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
I don't. I'm like, it's so bad. I know what good Hispanic food is and all of that. And I still probably would start if I had to order from a menu. But that has been probably one of the missing components. And I think that the Lord was preparing us for that.
Yeah. Wow.
So when you double in numbers in 1 year, it's the Lord and just being available to reach everyone on that campus.
I love it.
So yes, we'll have to sometime share. Maybe we'll do it on the First Priority group page, just a video so that everyone else can kind of see what that looks like. Yeah. Having two students that are in America. Yeah. Because we think of that, we're going overseas and mission trips, and you have the pastor who shares, and then someone in the tribe or whatnot is translating. That's happening here. Yeah. And it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
It is.
That's very cool. Yeah.
So, yeah.
We ran out of our Spanish Bibles, so we have to order more of them.
I love it.
I know. I was like, no, we're not going to send Brian over the edge. Like, hey, do you have Spanish Bibles?
So we got to place an order anyway.
I love it. We'll do it. We'll do it. There we go. Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want me translating nothing.
I know.
It'll all be the Taco Bell menu.
Exactly.
Yes.
Get a chalupa is about all you can get. That's right. I don't know if you can get Jesus. You can get chalupa.
I know. It's all the same ingredients. Come on. No.
I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you for being who you are, oozing the love of Jesus, seeing people. It's just amazing. So thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, Steve.
Yes, sir.
What'd you learn from Shane and Natalie?
Well, you said it on the front end, so I'm going to repeat it only because it's necessary. I mean, there are two people that are just a deep dive, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They're just a deep dive of the love of Jesus and the compassion and passion for students.
Yep. And I'll say this, we got done with the recording. We hit stop with Shane and Natalie. And I looked at Natalie and said, we need to have you at fall conference to talk about how to recruit volunteers.
Yeah.
And she said, sure, we'll do that. So October 23, 24, 25, Embassy Suites in Franklin, Tennessee. We did not plan to make an announcement here, but
that's right.
We're going to meet all of these people in person that we're having on, telling stories. Natalie will, Lord willing, be up front talking about how to recruit volunteers. And it should be a good time together. So And it was a good time to hang out with Shane and Natalie. I need to go down there more often.
I was going to say, which is always a good time. Brad, it makes me think that we should probably remind everybody of if you have a follow-up question or a follow-up thought.
Yeah.
Because, again, they're a deep dive. Brad at fpofamerica.com, Steve at fpofamerica.com is a great place to send those thoughts to and give us an opportunity to respond. And the beautiful thing about you is that if you don't know the answer, you'll pass it to the person who does, right? You're not faking it till you make it.
Nope.
So
we'll connect you to Shane and Natalie.
Exactly. Or Christina or Susan or whoever the right person is.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
We'll hide Janice from everybody. She's not allowed to be shared.
Whatever, dude.
Can't share Janice.
She'll get it done.
She'll flat get it done. That's why we can't share her.
I know. Well, that's true.
Because other people ask her to get stuff done. They already do. It drives me crazy.
You already do. Anyway.
All right.
We're going to start fighting here pretty soon if we don't land this plane.
Well, that was a great conversation, man.
It was a good conversation. Thanks, everybody, for listening, being a part of the First Priority movement around the country, taking the hope of Christ to every student. And until next week, talk soon.
Can't wait.